to our defense attorneys.
Michael Brooks, I represent the father, Caleb Miller Sr. Mr. Miller?
Caleb Miller, Sr.
Mr. McFarland, representing Aaliyah Burgess, please introduce yourself.
Aaliyah Burgess, mother.
Not that you have at all.
Aaliyah Burgess, the mother.
All right, Ms. Heiss.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was able to visit with this family. They had an unsupervised visit at their own home last week. If you didn't know what was going on, you would see a very well-functioning family. Dad was cooking homemade things for the children to eat. They were sitting up at the table to eat. The older child who was able to had his dinner on his lap, and this was a meal that everyone was eating. One child had something a little specific, looked like he might not eat sloppy joes or something, but they were all sitting still, of course, until I show up. But, you know, this father has consistently shown me that he can do something really technical with one child while supervising the other children. One time he was folding airplanes with a child. This time he was blowing up a ball, kind of a bouncy ball ride-on thing with a child, and allowing the child to help appropriately, but also putting in the muscle, you know, to get the thing done. Mom was there supervising the children and pampering the little one. And there came a time when everybody wanted this ball that Dad got blown up. So it belonged to one child, but the other child did the work to put it in. So I had no idea what I would do in that situation, but Mom and Dad worked it through and everybody did just fine. So those are the facts, I think, and you can see the facts in the case about what Dad and Mom are and aren't doing well on their services. So then the judgment part comes in that's difficult in this case because EM you know, has a scar from ear to ear, and it is healed so well. I can't tell you. And he's very bonded with Mom, and probably Dad too, but Mom had him when I saw him. And the home is clean and spacious. And there's even a dog that behaves very, very, very well at this home. It's clean home. It's well lighted, and the parents have enough energy for the kids. But when you look at the services that they're doing, you know, I don't know how they, so EM needs placement. He needs it very, very seriously. He has a lot of very serious medical appointments. Mom and Dad don't have a car that runs right, that's insured, but yet that is their car that they use for, you know, driving around and delivering things for money. And they're not in their counseling. And this is what EM needs to go home. He's out of a placement. He's been with a really experienced foster family who has met all of his medical needs. And now he needs a place to go, like yesterday. But Mom and Dad don't have a car to take him to medical appointments. And, you know, I'd love to put him there. And then the next oldest brother, CM, is doing so well in Montessori. My goodness, the manners that little kid is gaining, and the self-confidence, and the whining is turned down. And wow, I'd love him to benefit both from Montessori and being with his parents. The three older children are with paternal grandmother, and happy kids, well-mannered kids. They feel valued and wanted in all those environments. But the judgment piece about what to do with these parents not doing their services, you know, how many times I've said these parents are capable of parenting, and we can't allow that to happen. I don't know what they would do for a medical appointment. Maybe grandma's up to helping, but I guess I need to ask that question. So I get to this point of the caseworker last week said, in the court report before I visited, let's maybe reunify EM with his parents. And I thought to myself when I saw the home, my goodness, yes, let's do that. But you know, the car's broken and there isn't insurance, and oh my goodness, I guess that piece, I want to say yes, he needs to be there. I don't want EM to go to another foster care. I think each time he changes, maybe he can get in with his brother who's in Montessori care and doing really, really well with the Jacksons. But I think he wants to go home. I think he deserves to go home. But how do we trust the parents? They're not doing services. They're not showing income. They're not showing that they've caught up with their tax money, caught up on the house payments. So I'm confounded on recommendation. You know, that when you see it visually, it looks like, yes, 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 they're in partnership, they're doing fine, but I'd hate to reunify EM and then have him miss appointments and, anyway, so I'm not very helpful today. I can bring you my observations, but the analysis, I'm just not sure, Your Honor, so that concludes my comments for now.
Thank you. Testimony, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask that Ms. Cruz go first.
Come on up, Ms. Cruz. All right, Ms. Thomas?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Cruz. You provided a court report for today's hearing, and then this morning a copy of, I believe, a signed copy of the case service plan.
That is correct.
Okay. And were there any other attachments to your document?
No, there were not.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, are there any updates or modifications that you would like to make on the record as relates to the court report?
The only modification would be that mother provided evidence of income from January to April, to March, sorry.
And overall, let me start with, do the parent or do the children remain outside the care and custody of their parents at this time?
Yes, they do.
And to clarify, you are considered the family foster care worker, but case management only over the 3 oldest children, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And do you believe that the 3 children that you're responsible for are in the least restrictive environment to ensure their safety?
Yes, they definitely are.
And since they have remained with their paternal grandmother in this review period, correct?
That is correct.
Do you believe that there would be a risk of harm if they were to be returned to their parents' care and custody today?
Yes, the parents are still currently working with the order of service plan.
We heard a little bit in Ms. Heisen, her report regarding the parents' compliance with their case service plan or some of the concerns. Can you just briefly summarize their overall compliance and where there are still areas of need for the parents?
Absolutely. During parenting time, as Ms. Hayes reported, there has been a substantial improvement. This is definitely not the same family that we saw on October during parenting time. The supportive visitation worker has been working really hands-on with this family to the point that we have transitioned last week to 1 day unsupervised, and the other day they are still receiving that support from supportive visitation worker. The expectation is that after this program ends, which ends in the first week of May, they will be able to do unsupervised visits both days of the week. During parenting time, they're able to meet the kids' needs. They're able to divide their attention. They understand the kids' frustrations. They show a lot of love and care for these children and a lot of patience. They seek opportunities to have activities as a family. Last week, which was their first unsupervised, they went to the park together, and I think that was wonderful, a wonderful way to enjoy a time together as a family. So today I would like to ask the court for us to have discretion for parents to have overnights with the 3 older children, as they have shown a lot of benefit from the parenting classes. In terms of employment, I have only received evidence from legal income until around 3/14. March 13, March 14. The parents reported that their car had been damaged and they were working on getting that set. On the last family team meeting, parents reported that they were able to get that fixed, although Aaliyah reports that the car isn't child safe, as it still has some issues to be addressed. I have asked the parents for insurance for the car. Any evidence of the parents have stated that they still don't have car insurance. In terms of housing, they have reported previously that they were behind their 4 months of rent. The last family team meeting, they reported they were able to get caught up with taxes. We still have to get that evidence from that payment that they're caught up with rent. In terms of employment, Aaliyah Burgess has reported that she is soon to start a new job that's full-time, as she has been employed as a part-time worker. In terms of space from the house, I have assessed the house before they were moved, before the parenting time was moved to the parental home. Parents have secured the substances appropriately locked. And they have continued to maintain the placement clean. The house is a 2-bedroom. The expectation is that we create a plan with the parents to see how are we gonna set the 5 kids plus the parents in a 2-bedroom trailer. But overall, mental health, my apologies. Mental health, parents have not yet started services. Aaliyah is still to schedule the intake appointment, and Mr. Miller is still to submit the paperwork for the intake too. This individual therapy would also have a domestic violence component, as when this case first started, in the petition, there is some history of domestic violence between the parents, and this individual therapy would be addressing that. Caleb Miller reported that he completed a DV class at the beginning of January. However, he reports he has no evidence. I have tried to contact his probate officer, and I have not been able to have contact with her. That would be all.
Is there any, other than the concerns of when the children came into care, that domestic violence was an issue that did need to be addressed? Are there any other, I guess, concerns or issues as relates to the parents that individual counseling or mental health treatment is a condition that caused the children to come into care and remains a barrier to the reunification?
The only thing I would say, and we are in the right track in terms of the parenting. They have showed a lot of progress, but we would like to see how unsupervised goes, as well as overnights with the 3 older children.
I know that the child, the youngest child, is not under your case management at all, but there is the issue of placement for that child. Do you have any concerns, since you are the one who's sort of managing the family as a whole and monitoring compliance with the case service plan? Would you have any concerns if the court were to reunify that child with the parents today?
Well, I'm going to object at the grounds that, frankly, it's not a very fair question to ask this witness. It's not her case.
Your Honor, I believe that this witness is the most appropriate witness to make an opinion on that, as she's the one who does provide oversight for the parents' case service plan and their referrals and whether they're complying with it or not.
I have no response.
All right, I'm gonna overrule the objection. You may answer the question.
Yes, I do believe the parents are more than capable to take care of Eli. However, because I don't know up to what extent are his medical needs and appointments, I would recommend we schedule a family team meeting to discuss what's the plan for transportation and how are we gonna meet this kid's medical needs.
Okay, thank you. At this time, are you making any recommendation to the goal for the children at this time?
I recommend that the goal remain reunification.
Okay, and as relates to the things like getting the car sort of up to snuff, so to speak, are there any referrals that you're aware of that can be made for the parents?
Yes. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yes, I have been trying to get an appointment with Michigan Works for Aaliyah. However, they have not gotten back with me. The mother has also tried to make calls through Michigan Works, and we have not been able to schedule an appointment.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anything else you'd like to bring to the court's attention today?
I would just like to add that the children, as they remain with their paternal grandmother, have done really well. Paternal grandmother has been able to provide a structure. Because these kids are placed with paternal grandmother, this has allowed the parents to also participate of extra activities apart from parenting times. The kids are gonna have a birthday party this weekend. The parents are gonna be able to be there. Grandmother had plans an Easter dinner. The parents were able to be there as well as the older kids. And I think that this has also helped with the bond and for the kids to still be in contact with the parents.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor, and would move to admit the court report that Miss Angelique Cruz drafted and the case service plan.
Okay, questions for this witness, Mr. McFarland?
No, I'll defer to the testimony of my client.
Mr. Brooks?
Well, ma'am, Ms. Cruz, you were asked to give a balanced, fair recitation of your impressions, and you certainly did that. Thank you.
Nice.
Yes,
I wasn't done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanting to express my opinion that I think she's a very credible witness. Would you describe the glass as half empty or half full at this point?
What do you mean with this analogy?
Are they doing better? Are they doing pretty good given the circumstances? Given the circumstance that they are not doing all of the counseling that they wanted to do?
In terms of parenting time, they have done a lot of progress.
And following other aspects of the case service plan?
In terms of the other aspects of the service plan, the expectation is that they will be able to start for this next review period.
The way you phrased that, it sounds like there were some scheduling issues.
Yes.
So it's not entirely laid at the feet of the parents.
Could you repeat that?
It's not entirely their fault.
It's part of the, I would say, part from the providers, part from the parents, yes.
And given the circumstances that we have today, they're not ready yet to go home, the day being the children, but you're getting there. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement.
Nothing further.
Thanks.
thank you. The paternal grandmother, I haven't met her yet. Would you describe her as capable of supporting the children after they go, if they were to be returned to their parents?
Absolutely. I believe that grandmother was already involved with the kids before the kids entered.
Is she open to these parents using her car?
That would be something that would need to be discussed with her.
I'm just wondering how extensive her support is. Do you think we could rely on her for children's medical appointments and that kind of thing?
I believe that we would need to do a family team meeting to see where she's at, because she already is taking care of the 3 older ones.
Is she an employed person?
No.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna ask the other person. So, this house, could it, by your rules, I'm not sure what your rules are, if the children were in bedrooms and the parents slept out in the living room, would a 2-bedroom house like they have, could they reunify there?
Yes.
So maybe the girl could be M could be roomed with the EM, for example, even though they're different genders, they are both little.
It depends, just because there is a history of the kids acting out in a sexual way, making sounds. We could put some safety plans in place, like a monitor, I would say. But yeah, we can definitely have a family team meeting and discuss how we can arrange the kids in this house.
So when the older 3 kids were in their last placement, I heard that they were destroying furniture, that they were acting out sexually, that they had potty mouths. I don't see that. Do you, and what changed?
Well, one of the kids is still sometimes destroying stuff. They are still using pull-ups. They have been observed to make still sexual sounds, and there have been reports from school too.
Okay. The Michigan Works, the employment agency that you're trying to connect mom with, they will provide her, they might even be able to repair the car and do some car insurance, is that correct?
Yes.
So, okay, yes, nothing further.
Right, any redirect?
No,
Your
Yes.
Honor. Thank you.
Recross, Mr. McFarland?
Yeah, I'm gonna reprocess. If my client has access to a car, let's say her father's vehicle, that would greatly help her with attending a kid's appointments or maybe even getting them there, correct?
Yes,
Is that something that you want her to reach out to you on that?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Can you sworn in? Good afternoon, Ms. Young. You prepared a court report for today's hearing, and are there any updates or modifications that you need to make to your report as it relates to this family?
As far as updates, really, the other workers already kind of touched base on that as far as receiving income from Ms. Burgess. Now, as far as our recommendation, I'm very conflicted. Mom and dad, they do very well during the parenting times. As has already been noted, there are concerns with the transportation. So if we were to reunify EM with mom and dad today, we definitely need a safety plan, make sure that there is a safe and reliable vehicle for them to be able to transport him to these extensive medical appointments. And they have access to the database for those appointments. So those are, I believe, already scheduled. The other concern is, obviously, they weren't able to make it to the last doctor's appointment. There was an issue with the vehicle. I discussed that with them. And we all understood the situation. So they were able to get that part of their vehicle fixed. Hopefully, in the near future, they're able to either secure a different vehicle or if Ms. Burgess is in fact able to use her dad's vehicle, then that would help alleviate some of that barrier for them. And speaking with my supervisor, we did discuss potentially assisting with some of the insurance for the vehicle. So if we're able to help in that manner, then we can try to help with that to alleviate some of that barrier. But as far as getting another vehicle, we're not able to purchase another vehicle. So that's where either Michigan Works or another agency would need to be able to assist with that.
Okay. The report indicates that otherwise, both of the children are doing fairly well, correct?
That's correct.
And parenting time, I know that there was some issue with parenting time with the youngest child whose placement is sort of at question right now. Are there any updates to whether the parents have made up any of the missed parenting time, or can you give us any information on that?
At this time, I mean, we tried to set up some Zoom visits. I know some of them were kind of last second. We were trying to figure out a plan following the minor child surgery. There just was some issues in trying to get all of that set up. Visits were moved back into the parental home, so that we've had the barrier of trying to get the transportation to get the kids there. I've utilized our intern to our agency quite a bit to try to help with that. And, you know, there was an issue up at the hospital with allowing mom and dad to be there. They had every legal right to be able to be there. We addressed that with the foster parents. It became an issue. So at this time, we are looking for another placement for him if he is not returned home to the parental care.
This might go beyond the scope of what maybe you're doing through case management, but have you discussed with the parents the possibility of utilizing, is the child's insurance Medicaid?
At this time, yes.
And has there been any? Okay, and maybe this is beyond the scope, but has there been any discussion as to whether their insurance can provide some form of transportation to the scheduled medical appointments?
We have not discussed that, but that's definitely a conversation that we can have, because Ms. Angela had stated, we do need to have another family team meeting to kind of safety plan, so that we could potentially discuss that during that meeting.
Okay. And other than transportation, are there any other issues or concerns that the youngest minor child would have or be at any risk of harm if the court were to return that child to the parent's care and custody today?
At this time, I mean, there are concerns that they're not completing their services. Is that necessarily going to prohibit them from being able to parent their child? No, not necessarily. If they're able to maintain his appointments and ensuring like he can get to and from where he needs to go and having all of his needs met, I don't see why we couldn't explore that option. I mean, like Ms. Heiss had stated, I mean, we have a child who is in desperate need of a placement. Are we able to consider mom and dad as that next placement instead of moving to another foster home? That's definitely something that we want to continue to explore.
And this might have been a better question for Ms. Cruz, but I noticed in the reports that the family did not qualify, or Ms. Moore said that she could not provide the rapid reunification service to the family. If there's a possibility, or if the court does order the youngest child to be returned, is that something that can be revisited with Ms. Moore?
At this time, it's my understanding she's not willing to provide that service. I did talk to the FRP services though, and they said that they would be able to provide services in the event that he was returned. The only condition with that is because the other kids are not being returned home at this time, they would have only the services mainly for him, and then gradually increasing the time with the other children in the home, potentially looking at this within that report of 4 months that they're open, returning the other kids home in order to successfully complete that program, because they wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't be able to apply for a second round of FRP services without closing the case and then reopening, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. As relates to the two children that are in, or that you are providing the foster care services to, are there any updates that you would like to bring to the court's attention or highlight from your court report?
Well, as far as I mean, his placement is here. The foster mom is here present in the court. They have done a phenomenal job in working with him. He is in the Montessori. He's thriving there. He's doing very well. I went out initially 3 days after he was initially placed in that home, and just in those 3 days, he was a completely different child. He was very timid. He was very quiet initially, and then when I went out there, he was expressing his emotions. Yes, granted, he was throwing a tantrum, but you know what? He was able to express his emotions. He did very well in handling that. The foster dad did an excellent job kind of redirecting him, being very patient. And there is another minor child in the home. They did adopt a little girl, and she's had a lot of emotions with having him there. So she's actually re-engaged in services to kind of help express her emotions more, and just so that it's a better overall environment for the child. CM, he's done very well. I mean, he's from a big family, as we all know. So having the time with another child, engaging in the home at Montessori, sharing that kind of skills, I mean, he does very well. Sometimes he's kind of taken aback as to what's going on with the other minor child, but overall, he's doing excellent. He's thriving. He's doing very well in Montessori, as Ms. Heiss stated. So at this time, like, we don't have any concerns with his behaviors. EM, he is still with the other foster home. He's doing well as far as recovery. And from my understanding, he's almost ahead of schedule as far as his recovery. So he did have the extensive skull surgery, so they cut him open from ear to ear. And when I went the day after the surgery, he looked amazing. I was taken aback at how well he looked that first day after surgery. He did have a lot of swelling, for a couple of weeks following that, but he's doing much better. He's very happy to go to mom and dad's house for the parenting time. So, I mean, overall, he's doing very well.
Great, thank you. And if there's nothing else, Your Honor, I would move to admit, well, let me ask Ms. Young. Ms. Young, you provided a court report for the paternity hearing in March as well. And were
I did,
there
yes.
any, was there any information in that report that you did not include in this report?
I don't believe so. It's hard to say without having that in front of me. The word what was in it, but from my understanding, we established that we had all of the AOPs and we could move forward as far as establishing Mr. Miller as the biological father to all of the minor children.
Okay. Thank you. Reiner, I have no further questions of this witness. I would move to admit the current court report, and as relates to the court reports that were, I guess, served it for the March hearing. If there are no objections, I think that to preserve the record as best as possible, if we would admit those as well, I would appreciate that. But I don't believe that there's anything significant in either report that has not been included in today's report, other than ensuring the coverage dates for those reports. There's no lapse in those coverage dates.
Objections?
None.
I have none.
No objection.
Very well. They are all admitted. Questions for this witness, Mr. McFarland?
Yes, I presume with you that also that if my client does have another source of transportation, that she provide that information to you so you can deem if it appropriate or not, correct?
Yes.
And my client is of the belief that her insurance with 72 hours notice will provide transportation. So if that's the case, you need her to sign a waiver so you can contact the insurance company for verification?
I think as long as she's able to provide a copy of what that insurance is, I think that would be satisfactory.
Email or bring it to you, or what's your preference, if any?
I think she can email it or she can screenshot it by text message to me.
Got it, thank you. Nothing. I guess knowing that, if those two components are there, transportation and backup transportation, there's always 911 for emergencies. With the youngest child, would you be recommending return home?
I think as long as we can alleviate those barriers and have a safety plan in place, I think that would be a positive outcome for today. I think he's ready to go home. He's in need of placement. He does really well with mom and dad, and likewise with him. So I don't think there's really any concerns as far as them parenting, as long as we're making sure they're going to appointments. We don't want to come back into court and there being concerns that they're continuing to miss appointments or anything in that matter, because I mean, he had a significant surgery. He's got a lot of follow-up appointments. He's got eye appointments, the pediatrician, the surgeon, all of that. We want to make sure that all of his needs are being met.
What community are these appointments principally in?
They're usually up at U of M Mats. Correct.
Okay. Family team meeting, how soon do you think you could get that in?
I'll discuss that with the other caseworker and we can try to get that set up for later this week.
Are you asking permission of this court, lastly, to be able to return this child to the parent's home if you have a resolution at the family team meeting?
I think if we can get discretion, I think that would be appropriate this
No.
time.
Thank you. Nothing further.
What is the issue with the youngest child, medical issue?
I don't have the exact diagnosis offhand. I'm not very familiar with the medical terms, but he did have to have his skull basically restructured so that he has room for his brain to grow. Because as it was going to prevent a lot of growth, a lot of developmental growth.
How old is he?
He's a little over a year old.
Is this one of those situations where the fissures close prematurely?
I believe so, yes.
That is a highly correctable situation, isn't it? Or don't you know?
I'm not a doctor, so
All
I
right.
can't answer that specifically. I'm not very familiar with that.
Okay. The thought that keeps running through my head, forgive me if you don't understand the question, is this family's glass half empty or half full?
I think it really depends on what aspect of it you're looking at. As far as the parenting times, yes, they have, as Ms. Angeli stated, they have made significant progress in parenting. As far as case services, that is a barrier right now. I mean, they have work to do as far as the case services plan, but that's all with the other agency. She's working closely with them to try to alleviate those barriers. So, like I said, it really depends on how you're looking at it.
Thank you, that's all.
So EM and CM were placed together initially, correct?
Correct.
And then we got notice that the placement wanted the children's placement moved, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So CM was moved to this new foster home where he's doing well, correct?
Yes,
But then EM went up for his surgery, correct?
yes.
And then what happened? The foster family took EM back home and canceled the request to replace?
Yes,
And then they put in their new 30-day.
they did, yes.
Was it the intent of the department to separate the kids?
It was not initially. We were looking for placement for both of the minor children. It was concluded in speaking of licensing as well as my supervisor that for the time being, since he was having the extensive surgery and he had a good relationship with his current foster home, that he was going to remain in that home and eventually move the boys together if that was possible.
And do we know if it's possible that EM might be placed with CM? Have we got a definite answer on that?
No, and I'm only saying that because right now, I mean, we discussed it with the other placement. And as I stated, there are just some behavioral concerns with the other child in the home not handling having CM in the home very well, but it's not to say in the later future that that couldn't happen. But if we have another option, I mean, that may be more feasible to place them back with mom and dad and integrating all the kids in solely to the home, make sure that they can handle all of the needs.
Why didn't we leave CM with EM in the placement until they could both be moved together?
They requested him to be moved because of behavioral concerns.
Do mom and dad have driver's licenses that you know of?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Would you be willing to double check on that?
Yes,
Now, mom and dad were planning separately at one point, weren't they?
yes,
And now they're back together as a parenting unit?
that's correct, yes.
They both live in that house?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Okay, I have a couple of DHS 69s from January. I don't see one from the most recent change for CM. Do you recall if that was filed? Maybe I just didn't have it yet, or?
I should have had that file. I don't know offhand exactly when I sent that, but I would have sent that right after his placement. He moved on a Saturday, so I would have sent it out Monday or that Tuesday after. I can double check and make sure you got it.
Thank you.
Are you asking about CM?
Yes,
I have a copy of that.
good. Okay, so it just hasn't made it to my file. Thank you for checking. When did he move? Do you remember?
What was the exact date? I believe it was the 10th or the 11th of March. It was right before EM surgery, that weekend before.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. You may return your seat.
Thank you.
Anyone else you'd like us to hear from, Ms. Thomas?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
My client would like to briefly testify.
Sure.
Would you feel comfortable putting your mask below your mouth so that,
It is.
okay, thank you. So our court reporter can hear you clearly. You indicate to me that you have some transportation worked out, correct?
Yes.
What is that transportation?
My dad is willing to help with whatever that he can help with. And he's willing to help with any appointments.
So by help, do you mean lend you his car or do you mean actually physically drive or both?
Either or.
Would he have any problems with the workers, both of them contacting him to verify that?
Probably no, he would not have an issue.
Would you provide them, maybe after this hearing or by email, his phone number so they can do that?
Yes,
And you indicated to me that your insurance coverage provides medical transportation to and from for the children to their medical appointments. Is that correct?
yes, EM's Medicaid would cover any transportation.
Yeah, let's just use initials.
Yeah, for any appointments or anything like that, they just have to know 72 hours in advance.
Do you have a copy of that policy that you can provide, Ms. Young?
It would be, I believe so. It would be in his Meridian.
And how soon do you think you can provide that to her?
After we leave here, I can get a copy of it and try to send it.
Okay. And provided that checks out, are you equipped right now for return of the youngest child at home?
Very much so.
It sounds as though there's been an honest assessment about your strengths and weaknesses. Is transportation, it sounds as though there's been some appointment snafus with the providers, but has your snafu been basically transportation?
Yeah, well, we had gotten that issue fixed, like with the brakes. We were waiting for the parts to come in the mail. The pin snap, we got that fixed. So with his appointments that time, his last appointment, that is why we couldn't make it then. Because
I'm asking about your appointments, the counseling and everything else under your case service plan that you're supposed to do.
yes, I can definitely get to my appointments.
You realize that they're saying that that remains a barrier. Your parenting skills seem to be fine, but there's also the other component, which is what you have to do under the case service plan, is that's their expectation that they want you to do immediately. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you see any barriers to you doing that you might need help with?
No.
Okay.
We had the appointment, and the day that it was scheduled, she was not in the office. She was gone out of the office. That was for the psych evaluations, I believe. And I did try to schedule an appointment with individual therapy with the domestic violence component. They told me I needed to be in search of medication, before they would, to schedule me in, I guess. So we do have the psych evals coming up. And going on from that, I mean, if they believe that we would need something like that, I'm not sure. I don't feel like I should have to just make the appointment for medication. I don't need medication.
So you like a psychiatric evaluation first?
First, yes.
Okay, understood. If for some reason your dad doesn't have, I guess, do you think you can get verification 24 hours before you would need your dad to assist you to verify whether he could be of assistance? So do you think that's a possibility?
Yes.
That way you could give your workers 24-hour heads up notice that you will or will not have transportation so they could assist you.
Yeah.
It appears as though you need more than 72 hours confirmation for medical appointments. They need to know, so they know whether your insurance is going to be covering that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about the progress of your case?
I can't wait for them to be home.
Okay. Well, we'll see if any other attorneys have questions for you, okay?
Briefly, is your father employed?
Yes,
So what shift does he work?
thirds.
Thirds? Can he help with transportation for some of these visits?
Possibly.
Um,
I would have to get that from him, of course, first. But he's more than willing to.
Are you employed?
Yes.
What do you do for work?
Dollar General.
Okay, and that's close by your house or a different one?
Yes, it's the one in Tecumseh, actually. It only takes about 8 minutes to get there.
Okay, and then your psychological evaluation is scheduled for when?
May 1st.
Wonderful. You have transportation scheduled for that? Okay. Who is it that told you that they won't treat you for counseling with the domestic violence component unless you need medicine? Where did?
The last number that I called that Miss Angeli had given me.
Okay.
Okay,
So you're ready for the kids to be with you. Why, in your words, are the kids not all coming home today?
well, because there's obviously things that we've all discussed and listened to that need to still take place according to this case service plan. And
Wonderful. That's what I needed to know that you knew. Thank you so much. And it was your idea maybe to use the bedrooms for the children and the adults could sleep in that kind of main room and right?
Yes.
Okay, there are rules about that that I'm not aware of, but I like that idea. Do you understand that, it won't be your choice whether the little guy goes to appointments or not? It's just, you would have to take him and find a way, worst case scenario, reschedule something, but even, so we're not looking to you to make those decisions about whether he should or shouldn't go, correct?
Right,
It's just how to get it done, right?
yes, he needs to go to appointments.
Okay, now, okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Any redirect?
Nope.
No,
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Witness testimony today, Mr. Brooks.
yes, the father, please, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller, come on up to our witness.
You've heard the testimony here today, have you not? You've indicated that you have some observations about the condition of your car. You want the court to know, right?
Yeah,
What is?
it's a running vehicle. It's perfectly capable of going from A to B. It's just not capable of driving 10 hours at, in a daytime. To DoorDash, that's it. But it's perfectly capable of going to appointments for Eli, EM, and anything else besides DoorDashing for 10 hours. I have to fix the control arm to DoorDash, and that's it. And I have the parts in the car. I just haven't found the proper equipment to allow me to fix it. So my uncle is a mechanic and he can do it. It's just a matter of time of setting a time and day for me to take the car over to him so he can fix it.
What is the age, make, and model of the car?
It's a 2007 Pontiac G6.
Are you able to make the appointments for psychological evaluations when they have been properly arranged?
Yeah, I can go to the appointment. The last psych evaluation, the lady wasn't in the office, and it's in Hillsdale. It's an hour away. So she wasn't in the office, and we weren't able to go there because she wasn't there to do the evaluation. It's rescheduled for the 1st of May, and we will be there.
So the issues involving the case service plan, specifically the evaluations and the counseling and so on and so forth, you are not resistant to that. Is that a fair statement?
No, the counseling is the only one that I've had trouble getting into, is the counseling. But everything else in the case service plan, we've done already.
Why are you
Counseling
having
is the
trouble with it?
There was a waiting list at first, and then I had an appointment to go there. I went there for the appointment, but she never told me I was supposed to arrive 30 minutes early to fill out paperwork. So I arrived 10 minutes early. She said that I was there. I didn't get there in time, so she gave me the paperwork to bring it back. And I've been trying to find it to fill it out. So I'm gonna have to go there right after today and get a new copy because I can't find it.
But you're willing to do the things that the case service plan says you need to do.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Questions of this witness, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
I also have one more statement.
What would that be, sir?
There's an issue with Eli's with the visitation. We're entitled to 2 hours twice a week. We haven't seen him, except like when he got out of the hospital, we didn't see him for 3 weeks. And nobody did anything about that. How is it acceptable for that to happen between us? But if we have a mistake, we're accountable, but the people did.
How long ago was it?
We've seen him twice now since his surgery, and his surgery was over a month ago.
And how old is this child?
He just turned 2.
And you don't want that occurring again?
It's not supposed to, no. But per their policy, that's not supposed to happen at all.
Is there anything else?
That's it.
All right.
Ms. McFarland?
Have they offered both you and mother makeup parenting time for that parenting time that was missed for that child?
No.
Would you and mother both like to have makeup parenting time for that missed time?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Ms. Heiss?
You need car seats, right?
One.
If you and your family were in a car, how many car seats would there need to be for 5 kids?
There's 2.
Just 2 for the little ones?
Yeah, for the little ones.
I'm not sure, but the little girl might need a car seat. Will you check into that?
Yeah, I will, but I don't think she needs a car seat. I think she's bigger. She's tall enough and she's over the weight.
Check for a booster seat. Just so there are agencies that'll get these car seats for you is why I'm asking.
Yeah, we have a booster seat already.
All right, so you have a booster and you have 1 car seat.
Yeah.
And then you need 1 more car seat.
Yeah.
Thank you. Not that everybody fit in that car, but tell me this, do you have a driver's license?
I do.
Valid?
Yeah.
And what act, so you're not working right now? If the car isn't working, you don't work, right?
Yeah, safe to.
All right. Nothing further?
Okay, thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat.
Your Honor, it seems that the parents are doing pretty well. They are active in their children's lives. Their children are doing really well in their current placements, with the understanding that the youngest child does need a new placement. Efforts from the agency and the department are well underway to secure that. I think that there's still the concern about reunification with parents at this time, but we have heard testimony today where the main concern seems to be appropriate transportation for the child who has these significant medical needs. It seems that there are ways around that. I would request that I'm sorry, Your Honor, the department already has placement of the children and can change that throughout the case, so long as we provide the court with that DH-69. So I think that it's most appropriate to ask for another review hearing and allow the stakeholders, so to speak, have that family team meeting to figure out the best path forward for the youngest child and to ensure that the parents have everything that they need to be successful moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McFarland?
First of all, my client would like to acknowledge the foster mother who is here and her husband as being amazing foster parents. She's appreciative of that placement. Next, the prime barrier seems to be for the youngest child. Losing a placement, it looks like, would be transportation. We had at least 3 possible scenarios that would satisfy that. Sounds like driving to Ann Arbor, it's not a 10-hour trip, but the car would suffice now, because there is another transportation in my client's father providing either a vehicle or the actual transportation. There also appears to be that with 72 hours notice, my client's insurance carrier will provide transportation for that. So my client has been instructed, I've told her that she needs to meet with the workers to provide that confirmation to them. It looks like some snafus between both providers and my client. I think we're working that out. Very good report from the guardian ad litem, which is encouraging. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brooks?
We have parents who impress me as being capable and are in fact learning and improving their parenting skills because of appropriate and proper programming from the department in this court. We seem to have children who respond in the way we hope they all would to this same guidance from the department in this court and their parents. In plain English, I guess it's all working pretty good. Maybe we're not exactly where we need to be yet. I don't know. The one that I know more than I'm asking about when it comes to these closed Fisher cases, but that doesn't require a great deal of sophisticated medical intervention once you have fixed the problem. It's more like a broken arm than anything else. And I would like the court to consider returning that youngest child home. I mean, it sounds like they opened his skull up, which they did, and then reconfigured it so that it would fill in, which it was going to do. And nothing I've heard says they can't handle the extra care this little boy needs in a competent way. And I guess that would be my response. Yeah, the glass is half empty and the glass is half full. But we're filling up the glass, aren't we? And this little boy, I think, would benefit from being home. He's a 2-year-old boy. I think he'd benefit greatly from going home to his mother and dad. And I'm positive they'd be glad to have him back. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Hicks?
Your Honor, we're at about 5.5 months since disposition, and there still is a significant barrier getting this counseling done. I don't want to rebuild this family on shifting sands. I'm not convinced they have the tools to work together and live under one roof with the stress added that children bring. So I did see this child in the care of his parents, and it really does look like the placement that he needs, this youngest child. But I would ask for heightened scrutiny of the placement when the child is with his parents, and that we have a family team meeting as soon as we can. I know they had one recently, and I think I missed it. So if we could get another one teed up, that for sure I can attend. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your position, Ms. Heiss, that child EM should be returned to the parents as of today?
It's my opinion that the parents should do the case service plan, but yes, Your Honor, it is my opinion that I don't want the little guy to go to another foster care. If placement with his brother were available, it might be different, but yes, it is my recommendation that he be replaced with parents.
All right, thank you. The court finds all interested parties have noticed for purposes of today's review and permanency planning hearing. I do find reasonable efforts towards the goal of reunification are being made both by Ms. Cruz and Ms. Young. Thank you both for your efforts. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts with this particular family, it sounds like, especially with EM surgery. I can appreciate the parents' frustration and not being able to visit with him after his surgery as well. And I agree at this point that it is in EM's best interest to allow him to return to the care of his parents rather than being placed into another foster home. I would encourage parents to straighten out the issue of getting your individual counseling. Start getting that done to show and build credibility on that particular point. And so that your relationships with each other and with your child can be strengthened and supported by a professional. There's nothing better than having a professional person look at you and say, yeah, that's a great, yep, you're right, you're doing it right. So in many ways, counseling isn't necessarily about learning tools to overcome challenges, although that's obviously very important, but it's also good to have someone in your corner who's working with you individually, bless you, and helping support you during a difficult time. And helping support you around a complicated, difficult time with your child. This child's been through a surgery. He has significant medical needs. There will be additional challenges for you to make sure that he gets to his medical appointments. But I wish you the best of luck in succeeding there. At this time, given the continued need to see you engage in individual counseling and overcome some of the other barriers that were discussed today, the other 4 children will remain in their placements. That is the safest and least restrictive. Incorporating EM into your household and supporting him will be a very good way for us to see whether or not the successes that you have so far will be sustained moving forward. And I look forward to reviewing the case again in 90 days in hopes that you have benefited from the expanded parenting time and the time with EM and gotten into your counseling and some of the other needs that continue to remain outstanding. Good luck getting your car fixed. So that's what's going to happen with EM and the rest of the children pending our further proceedings. Thank you, Ms. Heiss, for your diligence in performing your obligations as guardian ad litem.
Thank you.
The next review hearing, which will continue to be a permanency planning hearing, but there's no reason to dislodge at this juncture the permanency goal of reunification given the successes that we're seeing. Will be July 18th at 11 a.m. The department or the agency by extension will have discretion to allow unsupervised or supervised parenting time. That will, of course, become a combination of those two things. Do you need me to expressly allow you to open that up to include overnights or?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that as well. I don't think we have to worry about makeup parenting time with EM since he will be seeing both of you. All right, unless there's any questions, that's all for today. I'm gonna be working on this court order and have it for you in just a few minutes. Again, our next court date is July 18th at 11 a.m.